Those have been like really important milestones for me, even though we are now at over 3 million downloads. All those women that came before us is like really why we're able to do this, and it's almost like we owe it to them too to like keep doing it. And so I just think of like all of the indirect impact it's having, and I just can't think of anything cooler. I think that is more of a motivation. There's certainly some days where I would be in a room and the only woman in the room, and that is not always easy, but it does keep me wanting to like still make sure that there is somebody at that table.
Before I ask you what moves you forward and what keeps you moving, what keeps you up at night? Welcome to season 1 of No Credit, the video podcast that highlights the often overlooked contributions of the women and gender diverse people working in the STEM fields across history, told through the eyes and the legacy and the voices and stories of Vancouver's incredible women and gender diverse professionals working in the STEM fields today. Hi, I'm Zeynep Güler-Tuck, Z for short, coming to you from the unceded territories of the Musqueam, Tsleil-Waututh, and Squamish nations here in Vancouver, British Columbia in Canada. This season specifically, we're focusing on the local storytellers and STEM professionals working here in Vancouver, BC. I'm very excited. So just to let you know, each episode we'll get to chat with these amazing professionals, these really cool people, and really ask them what it's like to innovate in the city. And how they're bringing in their community and how they're bringing in everything that they've come with through their journeys into their work, into their contributions, into everything that they are doing to shape our future, because they're doing some incredible things. Teaser. By the end of each episode, we'll uncover whether their legacies of histories and amazing pioneers were impactful or all in vain. So I'm going to check in with you at the end of each episode and you be the judge. Let's journey back to 1960s segregated Virginia, United States, where mathematician Gladys West defied the odds to revolutionize the way we navigate the world. Her groundbreaking work laid the foundation for GPS, technology that powers everything from smartphones to self-driving cars. Despite her pivotal role, West went unrecognized for decades, only receiving the credit she deserved 50 years later in 2018. Hi, I'm Zeynep Güler-Tuck, Z for short, coming to you from the unceded territories of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh nations. Today, I want you to check out joinnativesrising.com. I love this site because it's a place where you can learn about the career accelerator for Indigenous founders and Indigenous in tech. Indigenous or tech founders are kind of our thing this episode. So I'm excited because I get to speak with a fellow woman in tech. And I'm also excited for you because you get to learn more about someone who has built and developed this amazing app to help you through mental health, anxiety, and some of the challenges of this world that we live in. We'll be paralleling the story of this Vancouverite, or this person who has worked in Vancouver, with someone from the past, an unsung hero who actually was behind the global positioning system, GPS, and that's Gladys West. I'm excited. I can't help myself. I wanted to talk about how our pioneer, Gladys West, blazed the path for mobile technology and what kinds of things we can do with mobile technology. And I think that really had an influence on the work that you get to do. So we are speaking today with Ania, I'm going to get this last name right. I love this last name. Ania Wysocka.
You got it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I got it. All right. So let's try. And you have developed a mental health and wellness app, and we're going to talk a little bit about that. It's called Rooted, and really to help us navigate through this life's anxieties and stress and all that, and how we can steer through those moments of duress. So I'm so glad that you got to join me on this episode. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Woohoo! Okay, so we're going to kick it right away with a very important question about snacks. We just talked about it. Super important. What is the snack that you don't share with anybody?
I love dark chocolate, and I would prefer not to share it with anybody when I have one. It's a whole bar.
A whole bar?
Yeah,
I mean, why not? Why would you share the whole bar? I do the bag of chips, like the whole thing.
There you go.
And I don't even bother. Like, why share? I mean, we'll share other things, right?
Yeah, exactly.
We don't have to share that. We're going to get into, we were chatting prior to the interview, and you listed the places that you have lived and spent your time. So I would love for you to kick us off on this journey to where we are today, with the places that you grew up in and kind of helped shape you.
Yeah, for sure. So I was born in Canada, so I'm Polish Canadian. And then I moved away when I started going to middle school. I moved to Poland.
Got it.
And so I did middle school there, with my first year actually being at my grandparents who spoke no English. And I went to a Polish school, so there's also very little English.
Right.
And then from there, I moved to South Korea. That's where I went to high school. And there I did go to an international school, but still had, a blast hanging out with my Korean friends and learning Korean. And then I actually came back to Canada to go to UBC.
Nice. So you're very global. Very global. And you came to the University of British Columbia.
Yes.
What drew you to Vancouver, to here?
Yeah, I guess a bit. Living in Korea, I was actually living on the ocean as well, and that became super important to me. And I think my mom just also showed her love of the ocean and ocean creatures, and I kind of grew up with that. And so that was actually a huge influence on why I chose BC. And then it was about coming back to Canada, where I was born, getting to know this country more as an adult.
Okay, so you're here, you studied
international relations.
Okay, well, that makes a lot of sense.
Yes, definitely.
And then we moved into, where are we now? So UBC, graduated. Take us
Well, I
along that
actually
journey.
had a panic attack in my 4th year of university. And that really derailed the plans that I had for myself. So I thought that I would go into trying to work for the UN or some diplomacy work because of the languages that I grew up learning and just from moving around a lot and the enjoyment of that. But in the end, that panic attack did change things for me. I was a student, so I was on student loans. I didn't have access to traditional resources. I was far away from home, right? My mom was still in Korea.
Okay.
And I just didn't have access to these things that now, looking back, I've learned that could have been so helpful in that time.
Right.
But it did change my career a bit. I kind of went the computer route in terms of figuring out how to do graphic design. I've always loved drawing and design. So it was about how do I take that from the canvas and paper and do it on my laptop. And as an autodidact, I love learning just on my own. So I would just watch YouTube videos and vlogs and learn how to use these programs. So that's how I got into eventually creating Rooted.
Okay, so hold on. You said something you wanted to go back.
Autodidact.
Okay, what is that? Who is that?
So it's someone that is okay learning on their own.
Okay.
So when there's different learning styles, obviously. And so when we go to school, some people really benefit from being in class, discussing with the professor, and being there for the lectures.
Yeah.
I was that student who I could go to class or not. For me, the real learning that happened and how I really engaged with the course material was through reading textbooks on my own time.
Interesting. Okay, so that feels very fundamentally what led you to becoming a tech founder. It's sometimes a very lonely job.
Oh, yeah.
But I would love for you to take us to Rooted, the app that you developed, that you built, and I would love to hear how it's doing, any milestones, and what kind of achievements and kind of twists and turns you've been through with it.
For sure. So after learning graphic design and website development, I started creating websites for small businesses in BC. And I realized that, I was limiting myself in the sense of not going to many events. And something I used to love to do was public speaking and just meeting people. I mean, that was something I've loved since I was a little girl.
Yeah.
And I started learning these tools that could help with panic attacks and anxiety, but I really didn't have a way to engage with them while I was on the go.
Right.
So I would carry around these books and papers and stuff,
Right.
like everywhere I went.
Oh my gosh.
Everywhere.
Huge
Journals.
backpack.
Yeah, exactly. And then I thought, this should really be on my phone. I have my phone with me at all times, and if it's helpful for me, it could be helpful for others too.
Right.
So that's how the process started. And it really started, again, in my journals, like drawing the wireframes and figuring out like what would make the most sense for me as somebody with lived experience. As I'm getting better, what is it that actually helped me get better, and how can I convey that to others? And so I would say that international relations helped a bit in terms of like the communications, right?
Right.
Because that's something that was a big emphasis when I studied that. So it was really about, how do I take this experience I'm living and communicate it to others, and also communicate the path that's led me to be better or like feel better.
Right,
Yeah.
right. And so tell me about some of the milestones that you were able to celebrate with this.
Yeah, so probably the most significant milestone for me was hitting 100,000 downloads because it was on my birthday. And this came after not knowing what would happen when I launched Rooted, right? And I really didn't come from it with like a marketing plan or even a business plan. It was very much a scratch your own itch. This product needs to exist, and I really hope it can be there for others.
Okay.
But I, not venture backed, didn't have savings. So I was really putting Rooted out there and hoping that the product itself really communicates with users. And I focused a lot on organic strategies like App Store optimization, because my budget was my time, really, right?
Of course.
Yeah, so hitting 100,000 users was like, what? Like, how? This is amazing.
Yeah.
And so that was a really significant milestone.
Right.
And then the same goes for like user reviews. Hitting 50,000 user reviews was really incredible.
That's amazing. Like 50,000 viewers would take the time to just mention how much the product meant to them, or the app, the actual experience.
Yes, and that's publicly. We also get a ton of private DMs, a ton of emails. So yeah, those have been like really important milestones for me, even though we are now at over 3 million downloads.
Woo!
I'd still say the first 100,000 was like the biggest moment.
Of course. Yeah. Thank you to all those 3 million.
Yeah.
Oh my God, what an accomplishment. Okay, so let's switch gears into tech life, tech founder life. This is a very unique beast, I like to call it sometimes. It's not for the faint of heart. It's failure. For me, as a founder, I feel like every day I'm doing something I'm failing at, but you keep doing it, right? And it's almost this movement, this constant movement. Before I ask you what moves you forward and what keeps you moving, what keeps you up at night?
A ton of things keep me up at night.
I'm glad you said that. I'm not the only one.
Yeah, I'm a visualizer.
Right.
So I visualize my next day. I sometimes visualize like what I want from the future and to come, and like these kind of bigger moments and different milestones. And I did read recently that Einstein and some other thinkers, I'm sure some females as well,
For sure.
actually really used visualizations in their work.
Yeah.
And that just made me feel better about all the daydreaming I do, because I do a lot of it.
Yeah.
And so, I think I went from when I was struggling with anxiety, being kept up because of worries and stress.
Sure.
And because I'm now able to manage that, I'm kept up more with like things I'm excited by.
Oh, great.
And I'm like, I know I should sleep, but like I really want to visualize this. So yeah, I do a lot of that.
It's like an athlete. You're
I
like
guess
an
so,
athlete.
yeah.
They visualize it, the shots and everything. I know.
Totally.
I know Serena Williams talks about it a lot. Yeah. Okay, so then we're gonna get to the goods, and I always have to stick with my notes, folks. What keeps you moving ahead is one of the questions, but I feel like that's gonna be an underlying question and something that we talk about a lot. But I want to talk about what keeps you moving ahead, because you know that a lot of the women in tech, women and non-binary in tech in history, like Gladys West, like our pioneer who developed GPS, really were unsung heroes. And so the work that you get to do now is in a space that was really blazed by a lot of these people. How does that keep you moving forward? Does it get you down, or does it keep you motivated to be consistently doing the work that you're doing?
I think that is more of a motivation. There's certainly some days where I would be in a room and, the only woman in the room, and that is not always easy, but it does keep me wanting to still make sure that there is somebody at that table.
Right.
And so I do find that quite motivating, even though it can be challenging at times. And I think it's all those women that came before us is really why we're able to do this. And it's almost like we owe it to them too, to keep doing it. That's sort of how I think
That's
about it.
a great way of looking at it. Yeah, I feel very, very much the same way. What I want to talk about are some of the accolades that you have. We have a hot shot over here. And you've been recognized, so I want to get this right, you've been recognized as the Innovators and Entrepreneurs Foundation Global Impact Business Owner of the Year. Congratulations. And previously Cartier Women's Initiative Fellow.
Yeah.
Now we talk about what moves you forward, and sure, things will get you down. You've had lived experience with mental health challenges. So having these accolades, having these accomplishments, what does that mean to you?
I think one thing that I didn't do enough of in my early years of starting Rooted is ever really sit down and acknowledge the positive moments. I think it's very easy for many people to just kind of brush by the success and focus on what didn't work.
Right.
And so having moments like that where external parties are recognizing you is actually super great. I remember for the Global Impact Award, I got to do a speech and a bunch of my friends were there, and it was really a moment. I talked about my mom in the speech actually, and how she motivated me.
Right.
Yeah. And then the Cartier Award, that was in Paris. We had a whole event set up. So it was such a really cool experience too. And it almost forces you to stop and take stock of what you've achieved, which I need too. I need to practice what I preach and acknowledge these things more as well.
Completely. And there are pinch me moments, but you worked very hard to get here, right?
Yeah.
And that shows. So, and I know a lot of people know that. So in those hardest moments, are you able to have that peace, knowing that you've had these accomplishments and they will come and things will come even when it gets hard? Because I know as like I said, as a tech founder, especially a woman in tech, there are hard moments, and there are moments you want to quit. There are moments you're like, I'm packing this in. This is it. It's over. Because I know a lot of people in my community as well are packing it in, right? And so it happens a lot. So do you have a message for these people who are ready to pack it in, or just, they can't see past that ridge?
Yeah, I guess it's all about going back to your why and why you started, because when you do listen to that voice in yourself, it can clarify that, this one crappy day was just a crappy day, right? And yeah, I think that's been super helpful for me. Acknowledging the small wins along the way is another. And in Rooted's case in particular, the user reviews. That's extremely motivating. I even have, my partner created this frame with different user reviews and testimonials, and it's in my office, and I do peek at it when I'm having one of those days where I'm like, oh, I really don't want to deal with this right now. And then I look at the reviews and I'm like, okay, this is my why. So that's been really helpful for me personally.
I love that. Shout out to the partner. That was great.
Yeah.
It was a great idea. Okay, so we're going to do rapid fire. Favorite place to hang out in Vancouver?
Probably Minx Chocolates. A girlfriend, colleague introduced me a few years ago, and obviously I'm very into chocolate, so it worked out, and I love to, hang out there, get my laptop out and work from there as well.
Awesome. All right.
Hopefully they're okay with that.
Yeah, I think so. Morning routine.
Morning routine. My mornings are my me time, so I usually start with journaling, drinking water, and doing a workout, listening to a podcast, and then shower, and then I'll get into the day.
I'm the same way. We're like besties on that one. Do you want to get into best advice you've ever received, with a preface that you might not have taken it?
Well, I think in relation to business, when you're working on something you really care about, thankfully with Rooted, it got to a place where some offers for acquisition started coming through the door. But I think some great advice I've received is what is the end goal? Like to keep looking back at that, because for me right now, I can't really imagine a better job than what I'm doing with Rooted and the impact that we're having. I mean, it's, you hear from people who are using Rooted to improve their lives and they're in turn improving others. Like the other day we got a review from a therapist saying that they're able to restart their practice. And so I just think of like all of the indirect impact it's having, and I just can't think of anything cooler.
No.
So I like that person gave me that perspective,
Yeah.
because I think having an exit is so glorified, and people say, oh, lifestyle businesses, they like look down on them, but I think that's changing.
I think so too.
I'd say that was pretty great advice.
Yeah, I like that. Okay. And what would you tell your 10-year-old self?
Oh, to keep going. I know that's pretty generic, but I think I struggled a bit when I was 10 because I moved around so much, and it was really hard to see like what the future would be like. And I think I still draw on some strengths of qualities of that 10-year-old. Right? We all grow up, but I think the core of us is the same often. So I'd probably just tell her to keep going, even though it was like confusing at times.
Right, exactly. Moving around would get that way, wouldn't it? All right, what do you love the most about, you just answered that actually, but what do you love the most about what you get to do?
Yeah, the user reviews, the impact.
That's user reviews. It goes back to just the impact that you're making.
Exactly, and meeting people in person now. Like that's something that I couldn't do. Like really the business started growing a lot before COVID, and then COVID happened, so I didn't really get to hang out with any users. But now when I go to conferences, I get to meet people in real life that have benefited from Rooted, and it's been incredible to get those stories and be able to hug them and and have like a chat with these people that were affected by something that I created when I was in a really dark place. So it's nice that it's benefiting. And
and you built that community. Right? That's amazing. Okay, so we're going to switch over to innovation, because that's very much part of what you do, and you really move us forward with the technology. So what, if you were to say innovation is, in your response, what would you say?
I'd say innovation is an openness to adopt to the new and like test it. And it might not always work. Like sometimes we're operating with new technologies from Apple and Google, and sometimes they're a fit for the product, sometimes they're not, but I'd love to try.
Nice. Okay. And then finally, what does credit mean to you? Because that's our called No Credit video podcast. So what does credit mean to you?
It's interesting. I actually get a lot of questions as to why I'm not the face of Rooted within Rooted. And I think that's because I really didn't mind being anonymous at first. Like it took me a while to even get comfortable doing interviews. It's also because it's about a very sensitive topic. But I'm much more comfortable with it now. And I think as the world is kind of talking about these things, I'm getting more comfortable too. So it's awesome. And so that's a tricky question, because I think credit to maybe a demographic, like the theme of this show, is very important. But I personally don't mind that the majority of users will never know who I am.
Interesting. I feel like there's another episode that we could dig right into that one for. So we're going to do a little bit of a refresher. This is our Up Your IQ section. We're going to ask about some of the things that a lot of us face, and maybe we don't have a way to articulate it or know exactly if that is what it is. So if you can give us kind of a quick whip, what is anxiety?
So anxiety is a state of apprehension or fear from something that's either really happening in the moment, or it can be an imagined threat. And those differentiators are important. But that is the definition.
That's the definition, but it is important to differentiate the two, which is great. And what's a panic attack?
A panic attack is a very heightened state of that anxiety. If you've experienced one, you would know. It's almost difficult to describe in words, but basically it is to that point where you're experiencing a lot of physical symptoms from that, a lot of different sensations that come from that state of apprehension and fear that are extremely heightened and can be very debilitating.
Okay. And then
it could lead to panic disorder, But people do experience panic attacks differently.
Okay, and then how does the Rooted app help navigate those?
Yeah, so Rooted is based on cognitive behavioral therapy, and it essentially has all these different tools to help activate your parasympathetic nervous system. That's the one that actually calms us after we feel the rush of adrenaline. So, fight or flight.
Right.
It's been very useful for us as species. We've needed to get away from danger and stay in safety. But it becomes really complicated if there is a imagined threat. So going into a boardroom to public speak is not the same as being chased by a lion, but you might actually have similar sensations in your body. So what Rooted does is really help activate the part of you that brings you back to calm.
Ah.
Yeah.
So the happy place and all that. I like that.
Yes, I always thought it was ironic that it's the parasympathetic. So the sympathetic nervous system is what gears us up and gets us ready for fight or flight, and the parasympathetic is what calms us.
Right. So we've explored the untold story of Gladys West, the woman who brought GPS technology to this world and really paved the path for a lot of other mobile technology, including one developed by the lovely Ania and her team, and how she's been able to shape it in such a way that it is helping us navigate some of life's biggest challenges. So what I took away really from this was you've had this lived experience and you've turned it into this opportunity to be able to help others. And you see that in your day-to-day through the user reviews, and you're able to see that impact because you didn't stop and because you kept moving. And even when it was hard, you switched that into, I'm gonna visualize this. I'm not gonna let that get the best of me or just let that stop me from moving forward. I love innovators like Ania because you are changing this world and you're making it better for all of us. So 3 million, we're gonna chat with Ania when it's like 300 million, which is in a couple weeks. But yeah, so thank you so much for taking the time to be here. We appreciate you so much.
Thanks again.
Yeah.
Thanks again for the work that you're doing too, highlighting all these incredible women
Yes.
that have paved the way for us.
Yay, we're doing it, we're doing it. Okay, well, stay tuned to the next episode of No Credit. Behind the advancements that have taken us to space, grounded us in the algorithms we've created, taught us about our minds, our worlds, are some of the most incredible women and gender diverse inventors and innovators in history. Most of them have done their work behind the scenes, in the shadows, without an ounce of credit, under the names of their male counterparts, or as the only one in the room. There is no in-between for them. Some of them have fought tooth and nail to stay in their fields, and some have gotten left behind. There's no in-between for these people. No Credit highlights the voices and stories of these women and gender diverse people in STEM across backgrounds and eras to challenge stereotypes, to champion diversity, and to ensure they never get left out of history books. This is their legacy in the flesh, in the voices, the stories, the journeys of the women and gender diverse people that are working in the industry today. And they love what they do, from astronomers to scientists, creatives to AI experts and tech founders. This is No Credit, and they are leading us into the future.
This is very, okay, good for her. Yeah. We landed on a space rock. Like, hello.
So when it points at you, you see it, but then it rotates away and you see nothing.
Hers were the first ones specifically designed to power this machine and take it kind of beyond basic calculator status into a computer.
And so I just think of like all of the indirect impact it's having, and I just can't think of anything cooler.
It's okay to fail, it's okay to suck. I play piano and I'm just like, I'm not good, I'm gonna sit. And like, that's fine.
Learning to do things that for you are helpful and positive.
Yes.
Learning how to breathe, the thing that we do all the time. Right.
Yeah, we're from roughly the same cultures, the same area of the world, so we might dance a little bit while we're on screen, so just bear with us. Do you want to give us like the one-line premise? Because I feel like it's over-practiced now.
No, well, no, it's just like I have come up with the solution to all the world's problems, right? Climate, of course. We've eradicated global poverty, have true trans-species democracy, and we just had to turn back technology a little bit, and everybody has to leave by 50.